Hi, I'm Gus. I know this is kind of weird because it's my first podcast episode.
But before that, let's speak about our little cover art for the day. Hey, I'm Gus, first of all, and this is going to be the first episode of Mucho Gusto, and you'll sure listen to it. But before that, I wanted to speak a little bit about the cover art. A detail that I thought after recording was that maybe it would be cool to have like a art masterpiece or something like that as the cover of the episode, because sometimes I think we treat topics in modern pop culture as if they're very current. But it turns out that many things that we believe are brand new have already happened and have already been artistically expressed by people in the past. So I think that's super cool. And today's topic, it's the origins, the origins of this podcast and how it came to be this pop culture reference space. And as I'll explain it further in the future, after this clip. And I really chose this one because the expression, it really talks to me deeply. It's Le Désespéré by Gustave Courbet. That means The Desperate Man by a French artist from the end of the 19th century. He was in his 20s when he painted this because it is himself. It's an auto-portrait. I don't know if that word even exists in English. But he painted himself with this expression in the eyes of pure desperation because he didn't really know what to do. He was not a starving artist because he came from a wealthy family, but he was someone that was throwing himself in unknown waters, just putting his art out and doing all of this for the first time, and he wasn't unsure of who he was or what was even his work yet. And that feeling, it's something that we can all relate to. It's this anxiety and but at the same time, it's a little bit of emotion, of anticipation of doing something new. And this is what represents at the beginning of this podcast. It has been something that I have always wanted to do for a long time, but I've been putting it off and putting it off. And I'll explain a little bit more in the next clips. But this feeling that sometimes you want to create something and you can't, or you're a little bit anxious of how it might do online and stuff, it's something that has been lived by many people. So it's kind of recomforting to think that we're not all alone. And there's always a community of people which you can discuss and share this feeling with. So that's why I chose this one as the cover for the first episode. Remember to follow the podcast here in the platform where you're listening it, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Spotify, Apple, whatever you get your podcast. Be sure to follow, share it with the people you love. Remember to follow me on Instagram at DisGusthing Insta, on TikTok at DisGusthing TikTok, and share this with someone you think might like it. Thank you so much for your time, and here we go with the first episode.
So far, I've been in a creative struggle to get stuff done. And I think that's a very common problem among people who want to be, designers, artists. In all of this creative field, we always struggle with the completion of our works, which it's a very dumb thing, because it's better said than done, of course, but sometimes we just say, oh, then why don't you just do stuff? But it's hard because sometimes I'm a much perfectionist person, and I always want stuff to be perfect as it can get. But this means sometimes you get caught up in the pre-production of stuff. I have said stuff like 50,000 times, but I don't mind, whatever. So, hey, mucho gusto. I'm Gus, and I'll be your host in Mucho Gusto, I guess. I decided to name the show this way because Mucho Gusto in Spanish, it's a way to greet people, you know? And I decided that this is going to be the origins of something. If you see me staring down, for those that are seeing me, it's because I've got my handy notebook here, which also doubles as a drawing book. So here I am in front of my camera, and I think we can begin now. So, mucho gusto. What brings you here? Why are you listening to me right now? Well, my proposal is that Mucho Gusto will be space for pop culture discussions, where the boundaries of what we called this new popular entertainment that we experience every day begin to melt into the digital culture and art fields. So we get this weird amalgamation of high art pieces that are also part of what we call pop culture. And I love to analyze the shit out of that. Why? Because I'm a big nerd. And that brings me to the first topic. One of my main characteristics while growing up and until now is that I really like to get the most information out of something. So I really like, let's say, the Titanic, which I had a phase when I was 12. And I was so into it, I'll consume every document possible, every piece of media that I could find about it. I would read upon that. I had like a trilogy of books. I had like a 3D model of it. It was really something. And how does that come to play here today? Well, is an exemplification of what happens when you have a child whose hobby was to check upon Wikipedia for hours. Yeah, that's a real story. Like, one of my hobbies while growing up too, since I was 8 until like 10, 11, was to just sit down and scroll Wikipedia for hours and hours and hours. Like Wikipedia loopholes, but make it a hobby actually. And that really puts a lot of information in your brain that it's not always the most useful, but it always causes interesting thoughts. I put it that that way, it sounds nice. But coming back to it, Mucho Gusto is going to be a space where we can just talk and ramble, especially me, yeah, about topics that are current within this news, this new movies, series, whatever artists that are inside our canon of culture in the digital medium, and that I like to speak of. Because you know what? It's my podcast, and I'll do what I want. Sometimes something that really matters to me is to understand why does it exist. Because as I really like to fight the idea that pop culture is somehow simple. Yeah, it's popular. It's for big masses to consume, you know? That's what makes it popular in easier words. But I really like to understand the motives and the things behind it that makes us like it so much. I think this side of me developed in my university years, in which I was exposed to critical media and critical thinking, basically, which means to take something and piece it apart and makes you see way beyond of what you are seeing. So I really like to do that here. For many years, my perception of media and pop culture was built with different inputs. In my country, we have a very strong sense of what the Western media proposes, as we are very influenced by bigger countries and stuff like that. So I knew what Hollywood was, for example. I knew what the industry meant, what the actors were popular during my growing up years. Hollywood, it was only the entertainment industry. It's useless at the end. It has no purpose or no existence. And I really believe that for like a big chunk of my life. So growing up and understanding that everything has a meaning, everything has something behind it, it's really fascinating. Much of my music taste was very all over the place when I was like, 11, 12, we all have our little moments right there. My sibling had an iPod, which I somehow got my hands into, and I could listen up pop hits and everything. And since that moment, I knew that was my favorite kind of music. For some years, I was very into electronic music for a reason, like, Martin Garrix, David Guetta from the early 2010s, which is, I do not regret. There's no regret, but there's definitely a little bit of questioning right now. Why did I like that? It wasn't very innovative. Let's just leave it at that, because I don't want to begin any controversies. However, pop was a constant, Especially, I remember that it was like 2011 something. I was in my living room pulling up the cord headphones that came with the iPod 2, mind you. We're getting a little bit old, and I listened to The Fame Monster by Lady Gaga. Good times right there. And especially Alejandro, it was a bop, definitely. And since then, that morphed into what I really loved, pop music until now. It's been 9 years, and I still really like to listen to pop because it has kept on evolving and changing, and it's not like a phase. I really think that I'm going to carry this for a long time in my life because I really like it, and it makes me so happy. For example, that new artists are still emerging and creating new sounds. It's so great. Especially, I've got the benefit of having friends who have extremely curated music taste, and that has helped me to broaden up and listen to everything. Every type of music, independent artists, commercial artists. All of those are always on my playlist. In a shuffle. I'm telling you all of this because it's also one of the reasons I created this space. Because artists as Lady Gaga, for example, that I've loved for the longest of times, it came from like a kind of a little obsession, yeah, on my younger years, to consume everything that was going on. I remember to check her Facebook pictures like for hours and hours and hours, and it was fun for me to now understand what she's really doing. What she really puts out has much bigger deepness that even the media accounted her for, and now it's like an appreciation moment. It's not like a mild obsession. It's really liking someone's job and someone's creative endeavors and being so into them that you want to support them. Does Lady Gaga mind to have one more fan or one less? I'm not the one to judge, but as long as it goes, I really like what she's got going on. So I support that. And I think that's my bigger mindset towards digital creators and artists nowadays. What I like stays in my life, and what I don't like, it doesn't, I think that has come over the years, and I know that I sound like an 80-year-old person, but I'm only 21. But it really hits you that time's passing, You're growing up as a person. And this has nothing to do with pop culture, but it has to do with me, and I'm the host, so it is in this space, I guess. But coming back to what I was speaking before, Lady Gaga, it's an extremely good segue to 3 pop culture moments that I think totally marked me and who I am right now. The first one would be Art Pop 2013, specifically the MTV's 2013 performance of Applause. It's one for the books. It was in the middle of such a debate whether Lady Gaga or Katy Perry was the better artist, which it's crazy nowadays to put 2 equally talented people in the front of media and battle their fans and make them, one's better and one's shitty. It doesn't work that way. They can coexist and build upon what the other is making, But somehow the news always makes our understanding of things in a very deterministic way. But in that time, I really loved to see that live. And I'll always remember putting up, cable TV and watching it and really loving applause to the point of listening like 10 times a day. I still know every word, and the music video is deeply ingrained into my brain. And now that I'm older, I can appreciate it as an art piece. After going through some years of learning a lot of stuff in college and semiotics of everything that wasn't put delicately into work in applause, for example, you can really get to see some very good skills of the people that were involved with the production. Not only Gaga, but the director, the producer. All of them really worked a lot in order to bring such a literally majestic masterpiece, if you will, of our pop culture. I'm saying like it's a joke. I'm so sorry, but it's the first time. So I'm not going to make a big fuss about it. This podcast will exist. And yeah, I really wanted to say that before. Sometimes I think that we put ourselves into such a mindset of having to control everything, control freaks like me, that makes us worry, oh, but I've got to control this, and I've got to control that, and I've got to change this. That doesn't let our thoughts and projects manifest into products like this. It doesn't let them be, literally. And I want this project to be. So here you go. You're being. In a way, it is a mother and son relationship. Coming back to the MTV Music Awards, and it was the same one with Miley Cyrus and Robin Thicke. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but Blurred Lines. I remember that. I remember all the memes, and that's also deeply ingrained. But the second big thing that really shaped my way of understanding digital media and pop culture would be to be one YouTube OG. I'll say it like that, and I'm proud to say so. I was one of the people that watched The Annoying Orange in the very, very old YouTube UI. And I remember, oh my god, we've got this recurring joke at my family that I asked when I was 9 years old for my mom to give me one recording camera because I wanted to upload stuff to YouTube and she wouldn't give me one. In being a good parent, because you don't want your 8-year-old to upload stuff online without any supervising. So she was like, no, of course not. And I was like, why? But imagine now if she would have given me the camera, I would be a very famous YouTuber. I'll be the best YouTuber, by the way. But it really was such a big part of my entertainment on those years, apart from watching Wikipedia. It was to see what randomness was going on YouTube. Oh, The Annoying Orange, I was little still, so I was kind of scared of it. And I remember it was very popular for there to be screamer videos, and those traumatized me. We are recording with the last little bit of battery that my camera has left, so I'm really hoping that this goes well. Anyway, as I was saying, So the comedic timing of my camera is golden, apparently. And my camera died. I'm sorry for that little intermission right there. Definitely the third moment of pop culture history that marked me is live concerts. I know it's going to sound very basic, like, wow, I love concerts. And yeah, I love them in that way, superficially, kinda. But more than that, I really like to see someone creative and, someone who has put hours into something, like thousands even, to perform and live their fullest while they are in a stage in front of you. That has nothing to compare itself. For example, recently, and literally a week ago, I saw Dua Lipa, and it was one of the best experiences of my life. That's how I describe it. I'll insert a short clip right here. but I believe there's a power in life experiences, something that you can feel the synergy between everyone reunited for the sole purpose of seeing someone they love so much. That's like another type of vibing with people. I'll put it like that. Definitely. And I'm very lucky because I've seen Lady Gaga. Nope, I haven't seen Lady Gaga. I have seen Dua Lipa and Lana Del Rey, which are very, very important artists for me live. And it wasn't the best of conditions, meaning regarding comfort and all of that. But it was such an experience that has deeply, deeply changed my view of this artist and how do you understand the process and performance as a branch of art itself. And in a world where live things are dying, especially after the historic events that we have lived through the last few years, and in an increasingly digital reality, for example, our phones, you can just watch the video of a play instead of sitting through 3 hours of a play in front of you, or a show, whatever. That, I really have to say, I'm a bit of a traditionalist, because I really 1,000 times will take a live presentation, even if I'm in the last line of the concert, than a video, just because of the synergy and everything that I described. So, these three aspects, combined with the little bits and pieces of my life that I have informed you about, really built me and really built my viewpoint and mind with a deep, deep interest in how this creative expression of pop culture works, and all of its intricacy, all of its complexity, and sometimes paradoxic behaviors, how it reflects values from the past, how it reflects the change of mind that we have had in the last few centuries or the last few decades. All of that is fascinating to me. So this is why I sit here and do this, so we can talk and have fun. Especially, this is close to my heart, so there will always be a little bit of my bias. It's not going to be a completely unbiased and extremely fair view, because I'm a person. Guess what? I'm a human who has preferences and specific things that I like the most or I favor the most. Oh, by the way, I'm not the best informed person, so my intention is not to create a means of informational or educational resource. I don't think I'm the best person to cite. I will always encourage you to do your own research. However, I'll quote and direct to different bits and nuggets of information that I have been exposed to. So there's always that, but instead of quoting me, research and find your own experience with the difficult topics, because I'm not here to teach. I'm not a person who's qualified enough to do that. I can only tell you my view and my perspective of topics. And I'll try to inform myself and make it as long as I can stand by it, and I'm coherent with what I'm saying. So please do that and get along with the ride. So, with all of that in mind, this is Mucho Gusto, and Mucho Gusto to you. Mucho Gusto, you audience member that are listening to me right now, and I hope we have a very long and fruitful journey together. So, that was it. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a lovely, lovely evening, morning, whatever of the time it is for you tonight, today, tomorrow, and see you next time. Bye!